The story made me think a lot about the misjudgments and social stereotypes that we often encounter in life. The bullies in the story, because of the boy's appearance, his skin color and his differences, were quick to mock him, assuming that he was weak and easily bullied. However, when the truth about his amazing martial arts ability was revealed, the story became more interesting and profound. This is a strong reminder that not everyone can be easily judged by their appearance, and that talent, intelligence or strength can appear in the most unexpected places. The story also shows the importance of not jumping to conclusions or hurting others without knowing them well. It is a lesson in patience, resilience and respect for everyone, no matter how different they are. A white kid starts something, and a black kid finishes it. Suddenly, the rules don't apply the way they used to. He puts his hands on his face, takes a deep breath, and wonders, what am I supposed to do? Eva hesitates, then strikes back, not with fists, but with evidence. That night, William sets to work. The next morning, he has everything he needs, screenshots of the messages, a video of the cafeteria fight, and the full clip, not just the deleted part. Witnesses are ready to back him up. When William walks into school, he's not alone. Eva walks with him and two other students, kids he barely knew before, but they know the truth, and that's enough. They head straight to the principal's office. When the meeting ends, Ryan's dad doesn't get what he wants. William isn't expelled, he isn't suspended. There's nothing to hide because the truth is on his side, and it's undeniable. Ryan didn't return to school that week. When he finally did, he wasn't the same person. He wasn't as quiet, but he wasn't as confident either. He bowed his head, his voice low. He wasn't afraid of William, but he understood now. William hadn't just beaten him in the fight, he'd won where it mattered. And that's what people would remember. William had never asked for respect. He had never sought attention. He had just wanted to live without being tested, without having to prove himself over and over again. But the truth is, some people can only learn through consequences. And when you show them what you're capable of, sometimes they never forget. Standing your ground isn't about throwing a punch. It's about making sure the truth is bigger than the lie. If this resonates with you. He might not say anything, but those hands always changed everything. All morning, they hadn't looked at him with respect. It was all a game. William could tell from the glances and the indifferent nods, as if they didn't see him as a real person. They looked at him as a spectacle, something to be dismissed. Then a rumor started. And that's when William saw Ryan. He wasn't standing in his usual spot, near the door. But something had changed. Ryan's usual smug look was gone, replaced by a cold, tense expression. His fists were clenched, a silent protest. Zach and Brandon were still there, but they weren't laughing anymore. The atmosphere seemed to be heavy. Ryan didn't say a word, just looked at William for a few seconds and then turned away, as if to avoid something. William could tell immediately. Ryan wouldn't give up easily. People like him don't accept defeat, they always wait for an opportunity to take revenge. That lunch was not like any other day. Everyone looked at William as if waiting for something big to happen. But Ryan didn't show up. His table was empty. William was eating when someone sat down across from him. Not one of Ryan's boys, but a girl, Ava Sinclair. He had never talked to her much, but he knew she was smart and not one to follow the crowd. Ava looked at him for a long time before speaking up. You didn't just beat Ryan, you humiliated him. William didn't respond right away, just silently chewing his food. He knew this wouldn't end there. Ava continued, but this time it seemed a little sarcastic. You ended it. It was worse for him. William just smiled, not answering. Ava looked at him, then reminded him seriously, be careful. Ryan's dad is a school council member. Do you think you will let this go? She stood up, put her tray back and left, not forgetting to warn him again. Be careful. The next day, the energy in the school changed. Ryan not only avoided William, he also did everything to erase William's existence from everything around him. There were no more comments or smug looks. This made William feel that something was wrong. He had won, but this feeling was strange. And then, Ava found him at the end of class. Without wasting any time, she quickly said, "Ryan's dad is trying to make things difficult for you." William just kept silent, not surprised. This was an old game that he had seen before, but this time it seemed different. What happened at Redmond High, where one incident caused a huge upheaval. But this story is not over yet, because even when the final bell rang, the incident continued to spread like wildfire. William Mercer, the person who sent Ryan Callow crashing into the cafeteria, did so not with a punch or a loud brawl, but with a really gentle, simple, effortless move. And that is exactly why it is impossible to ignore this incident. If William had thrown a hand or had a chaotic fight, things would have been different. It would have been just a school brawl, the students would have taken sides, rumors would have started, and eventually the story would have faded away. But this time it was not like that. William made Ryan look weak, made him look helpless in front of everyone, something that in a place like Redmond High cannot be forgotten. As William walked out of the school gates, ignoring the stares, a few students looked at him as if they were seeing him for the first time. Some began whispering as soon as he turned around, while a few looked nervous. Ryan didn't wait outside, because that would have been obvious. But William knew, he knew that boys like Ryan never let shame go. They didn't just get up, dust themselves off, and move on. They waited, they plotted, and when they got their revenge, they made sure it was remembered. William had seen it before, and he knew it wasn't over. That night, after dinner, William's mother gave him a sharp look, a tilt of her head as if searching for something hidden in his face. "Everything okay at school?" she asked, putting down her fork. His father, who was sitting across from him, glanced up. William shrugged, "Yes." But his mother didn't believe him, she still looked at him expectantly. His father continued to eat, silent. The difference between his mother and father was this: his mother asked to find out the truth, his father always waited for an answer. As the night wore on, William's phone rang. A text message from an unknown number: "I don't know how strong you think you are, but today you're lucky. Be careful." William stared at the screen, sighed, then locked the phone and put it face down on the table. This wasn't unexpected, not even surprising, but now he had a choice to make: would he let it all go and pretend it never happened, or would he make it clear to Ryan and everyone else who he was? Because whatever was coming next, it was coming. On Monday morning, as he walked into school, everything felt different. William felt the passing glances and the whispered conversations, the conversations that stopped as he passed. That was all the confirmation he needed, the story was officially out. As he reached his locker, 2 freshmen ran out of his way, a junior he didn't even know, nodding in approval. And then they started, people who suddenly wanted to be his friend. Told him that he had put Ryan in a difficult position. "I heard you didn't even touch him, he just went down like a sack of bricks." He stood there, like a statue, saying nothing. Mercer continued to watch, his eyes glued to his back. William's body tensed, every muscle ready to explode. He took a deep breath, feeling every bit of air, to keep himself from losing control. The cafeteria was full of noise, but an eerie silence began to fall. The sound of chairs scraping on the tile floor, the sound of hands hitting the table, and then the sighs of the observers. All eyes were on William. Ryan Callow had moved closer, his eyes shining with defiance. "Who do you think you are?" he said, his voice filled with contempt. William didn't answer, didn't change his expression. He just tilted his head slightly, as if thinking about a difficult equation. Ryan sneered, his hand reaching out, but before he could touch William, a lightning-fast movement happened. William grabbed Ryan's wrist, controlling him without effort. He spun around, using Ryan's own momentum to knock him to the floor. It was a smooth, precise, perfect move. The cafeteria suddenly fell silent, Ryan's gasp audible. William looked at no one but Ryan. He leaned down, his voice as light as a breeze, "Don't touch me again." There was no threat, no insult, just a statement. And it made Ryan feel not only defeated, but utterly despised. William stood up, dusted off his hands, as if he had just moved an inanimate object instead of a person. He picked up his tray and walked away, not once looking back. Eyes followed him, and before he was out the door, the cafeteria erupted in noise. Stories began to spread, like an unquenchable fire. Ryan sat there, on the cold tile floor, his face red with anger and shame. His hands clenched into fists, feeling the price he had paid. All that remained was silence, like a full stop to his arrogance. William didn't react immediately. He just stood up slowly, feeling the heat in his palms. Everything around him seemed to fade away, leaving only the hard impact, Ryan's challenging look, and the whispers from the people around him. William felt the challenge rising within him, but he didn't rush. He wasn't in a hurry to be the target of provocation. Ryan, with a smirk on his face, stood there, like a victor. But William didn't back down. He took a silent step toward Ryan, the distance between them getting closer, and in that moment, all eyes were on William, waiting for his reaction. Ryan saw it, and he began to feel uncertain. All the years he had spent toying with others seemed to come back to haunt him. William wasn't like the others. William wasn't easily subdued. "Don't try me," William said, his voice low, but clear enough for Ryan to understand. A gentle warning, but it carried the weight of a decision. He was not one to be pushed around. The air fell silent, and once again, Ryan felt a little uneasy. The people around him began to move, exchanging glances. And then, the air seemed to expand, and no one said anything more. Ryan bowed his head slightly, smiling wryly, as if he had just realized something he had not before. William just turned away, continuing his lunch, as if nothing had happened. There was no need to make a big deal out of it. He had not given Ryan a fight. But he had not let himself be defeated either. And this time, that was enough for everyone to realize that William was not one to be pushed around. They mocked him, belittled him, and thought he couldn't fight back. But then the perfect move was made. He left the school in silence, leaving behind all. The first thing William Mercer noticed when he walked into Redmond High was how clean the place was. Not just ordinary cleanliness, but a kind of controlled cleanliness. The glass windows reflected a perfect world. The floors gleamed under fluorescent lights, the long hallways were impossibly neat for a school full of students. It wasn't like his old school in Birmingham, Alabama, where the walls were covered with student art, and beatboxing could be heard coming up the stairs at any given moment. Redmond High felt sterile, so clean that there was no trace of freedom or individuality. His mother called the move a fresh start, while his father, more bluntly, called it a necessary change. William didn't know what to call the feeling, but as he walked through the school doors, he could feel people's eyes on him. Not stares, but glances, whispers, the way they looked him up and down before turning away. All of them said one thing: "Who is this guy?" William wasn't small for a 16-year-old. At 5 feet 10 inches, he had a muscular build, the result of years of training not just to lose weight but to control his muscles. He moved with confidence, a quiet but powerful confidence. His father had always insisted on walking straight, never slouching, and to the other students here, he must have seemed like an outsider. When he went to the front office to get his schedule, the receptionist was overly polite. But as he walked out, a group of students near the lockers caught his attention. A tall, broad-shouldered boy with perfectly styled blonde hair was leaning against the lockers. 2 others stood next to him, laughing at something they had just said. Their laughter wasn't loud, just enough to make sure William heard it. Their looks, their soft whispers about him, were like a distant calculation. Ryan Callow, according to the class list William had looked through, was this blonde boy. Looking at him, there was no obvious hostility, but there was no welcoming either. It was the look of someone deciding whether to make a problem of you or not. William had seen that look somewhere before, it wasn't the first time he felt it. Ryan smiled, leaned towards one of his friends, whispered something. The other two chuckled, looked at William for a moment longer before turning away. William didn't pay any attention to it, he just took a deep breath and walked away. I have nothing to prove. His father's voice echoed in his head, strength isn't about showing off. It's about knowing when to walk away. So William walked away, but people like Ryan didn't let others go that easily. And that wasn't the last time they saw each other.